Hey, everybody. Welcome to the post-event panel discussion for customer support and customer service executives. We just finished up an hour-long collaborative discussion around some pretty significant challenges that success and support are facing. And one of those we actually want to discuss today, which is driving customers to use self-service solutions. A big part, a huge transition in customer behavior that customer support and success executives are taking head on. And I know this is a hot topic. So we're all kind of struggling with this. We all have new ideas. We're breaking things. And you know what? That's okay. I've got these amazing group of panelists here with me, all success support executives who are going to share some best practices, maybe some failures that they've had, and what they're learning when it comes to driving this behavior change. So first, I would like to turn it over to Jordan Premick with Salsa Labs to kick us off, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks for having me, Paul. So I would say our vertical is very unique. So we work with nonprofits, and certainly one of the biggest challenges when someone's working in a nonprofit is they're wearing about 5 or 6 different hats, and the least amount of time they spend in the software is a good day so they can focus on their mission. So one of the challenges that I've had and our team has had is a client would rather call in, chat, shoot an email versus have to find content on a knowledge base to get their answer solved. So what we ended up doing first was implementing some Google Analytics to track where our biggest hits. We also use Zendesk so we could actually track what our clients are searching on so that we could then iterate to say, hey, let's make sure we first identify and create content that speaks to our users' language. Because if they're using terms that possibly are more software specific to how our product works versus maybe not necessarily niche terms for nonprofits, but just in general, what are they telling us they want to find? We need to iterate on that. So the lowest hanging fruit was to make sure that we're speaking in the tone of our clients. And so whether that be content, specific language and tags within the label system, that's the biggest key there. The next step was understanding how much time are our clients spending on our articles before they're bouncing. So Google Analytics was fantastic with that. And we could identify, in a sense, our hotspots of, hey, here's a lot of content that clients are getting access to, but we're still seeing a lot of support debt come in. So can we tie in the understanding of that article or lack thereof that's influencing the support that we're getting? So a lot of things that we then did is, hey, can we start chunking out some of our overview or longer winded content into more digestible chunks? So task-based articles. So, hey, I might have to run a report. I'm using the report tool. Maybe there are specific tasks that a lot of our clients do within the report tool that we can answer. So that was another thing that we then iterated on to say, hey, they're finding the article, but they're not getting the answer they exactly need. And then they're going to support. So how do we get them that answer? So what happened from there is we started kind of creating specific cohorts of client requests that we get. So, hey, we're getting a lot of phone calls around, hey, I need to identify this segment of donors or whatever it may be. We would then translate that into actionable content on our knowledge base to say, hey, you're going to use this tool, but you're going to use this tool in this specific way to get access to that data or accomplishing that task, particularly with nonprofits. And I can't imagine this is specific just to our vertical. It's, I need to find an answer really, really quick in 30 seconds and then in a sense, stamp that pad or check that box so I can continue doing my mission stuff. So that was a lot of focus that we had is how can they self-learn and self-actualize leveraging the tool to get to where they need to be. Now, on the other side of that, and this is kind of sound like a pat in the back, is we were really great with getting back to our clients. Our average wait times dropped significantly. Our response times were within less than 6 hours on average during the day. So clients had the perception, oh, I'd rather send in a support request and I can wait a little bit or call in and get a quick turnaround time versus searching for that article. So a lot of our next steps iterations are how do we get that content in front of them before they even think about searching for it or picking up the phone to call us. So leveraging, since we use everything for Zendesk, chat, email, and phone, how do we leverage their widget functionality to get it into the UI so that it's intuitive of like, oh, I'm on this particular page. Oh, I see a support widget. Oh, here's a bunch of articles that are relevant based on the page I'm at. So that was our next step in iteration, to get content in front of them that was contextual to where they were at in the program before they chose to either open up the knowledge base or go searching on Google for whatever it may be, and somehow deflect that debt with content so they don't even have to think about searching or thinking about the language they need to use to find the article they need. Really, the next step and what we're working towards is kind of the chatbot AI solution, right? That's kind of the big hot topic in support and services, is how can we think for the client before they even know what they're searching for? And a lot of that's through, particularly, like I said, I'm sounding like a Zendesk fanboy here, but they have a lot of tools that allow you to really understand why clients are engaging with the software, to create support questions, and then start surfacing quick answers of like, hey, you've sent a support request in, here are some answers that probably solve your issue. Does this solve it? And then that ends up closing the support request before we even have to get to it, which then solves some of that low-hanging fruit stuff, but that still removes any kind of those bee sting issues that can drown a support team to get things done. The way I separate is you have the bee sting versus the dog bite. The bee stings, 100 of them can kill you just as bad as a really bad dog bite. So finding ways to deflect a lot of those low-hanging fruit issues so that team members can focus on kind of those value-add support conversations is really what that end goal is. So we're certainly always looking to iterate and evolve, but one of the things that we've really been able to do is identify the language, the tone, so that our education team is changing how they speak to our users in more of a familiar tone versus kind of that technical speak, right? That's always the big struggle, particularly for SaaS side of things. And then also how to get that content in front of them before they even think about creating that knowledge base, excuse me, not the knowledge base, creating an email request, a chat request, or giving us a call. I mean, at the end of the day, it's making sure that the time and resources that we spend as a support team adds more value, because certainly services, you rarely get to create the revenue stream, but you want to be able to see that your time being spent with the clients hitting that retention boat or hitting that that retention number, but also making sure that the time you're spending with the client just becomes less and less over time because you're more effective with engaging with them.
I think you bring up a lot of really, really good points. And I think the key one there is time. That, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what a customer wants, is they want their answer as quickly as possible. And I had this experience with Zoom when when the pandemic hit. I use Zoom every single day. I was the one that I wanted to talk to somebody. Well, guess what? In Zoom, you're 2 hours away from talking to somebody. So what happened? I had to use documentation, and that actually became my preference. So I'm not going to advocate for not answering the phone, but maybe that could be a solution here, is hold off on being so trigger happy with, getting to the phones. Let customers kind of figure it out on their own, perhaps. All right. So who else has some thoughts around this topic? Great stuff you presented, Jordan. Thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
So I think you both hit a nail on the head there. My experience is that customers will take the easiest path to get what they need. And that includes going to their sales rep if they think their sales rep is more responsive than their customer support team is. I'm sure you've all experienced that at one point or another. And so I had the same thought when, when he explained that, he's got very good response on the phone. My organization supports a couple different products, one of which is a hands-free stand that we clip our device into. And when I first started here, the customers had to send those in for repair, and then we'd send them back. So it was a lengthy process. And then we launched a self-service option where we would sell them the parts and they could do the repair on their own. That became very popular because it was easier for them. And then we implemented another service offering where we would maintain a pool of repaired devices so that they could send in their broken one. We would immediately send them a refurbished one, different serial number. And they were very happy with that. So they started abandoning the self-service option and went to the permanent replacement option. So, it's just another example of customers following the easiest path. So, if you've got a scenario now where you're trying to push one method, but you're delivering a lot better service with the other methods, good luck in getting them to go to the new method. You've either got to improve the new method, make it easier for them, dumb down the current preferred method, or do both? And I would tend to do both.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. That is some fantastic. You reminded me of back in the day they used to do with cake mixes, right? Like all you had to do is add water and boom, you got a cake. Sales were down. And so they're like, oh, what can we do? Oh, we're gonna make this a little harder. We're gonna have you add milk and eggs and then mix that in. And now you feel like you've actually made cake. So your repair story kind of reminded me of that principle. All right. So other thoughts out there. We're going to wrap this up in just a few minutes. We might have just a couple more thoughts. Tom?
I'm just wondering, Michael, did you have something you wanted to add in before I jump on?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. So right now, a lot of our focus and what I'm trying to focus is just kind of re-looking at everything and seeing on just different ways to improve every sort of aspect of the sort of customer service experience. One of the main ways I'm trying to do that is sort of simplify some of the complex processes by utilizing Salesforce a little bit more. So kind of we have a CSAT survey. I'm going to try to implement that through Salesforce. That should kind of be launched. A lot of the one thing is like with the KPIs and different metrics are these metrics actually allowing us to, drive different decisions and make sort of come up with various different solutions. And a lot of times they're not. So I'm revising sort of the way that we audit our agents and review them. And I've re-implemented that into Salesforce. So like on a case-to-case basis, they can just kind of like pop into a module and kind of review the case right there. And then we can get a pretty heavy-duty breakdown of what's going on with cases to reference. And one of the other ways is kind of that I'm kind of revising this is going through each agent myself and each case myself to kind of get more familiarized from like a ground level of what's going on. And what I've kind of found is that like a lot of our templates and messages that we're utilizing, we can kind of revise the language a little bit there to include, various different things. For example, like if somebody sends in a damaged product, we're asking them to send in the photos, but then after they send in the photos, we're sending a follow-up email asking what the item is, just kind of including some of the same criteria all on that same individual response. They shut off phones and chat for us a while back before I started, and figuring out a way to kind of turn that back on and sort of what does that look like. Right now, we're just 100% customer service through emails, and so there is a lot of difficulty there as well, especially when customers just really want to kind of talk to somebody. So really kind of taking in some of the notes from that personalized experience and utilizing it through an email process. Additionally, what we do is we take pull-in cases through Salesforce with both Twitter and Facebook. And initially, I guess they had a lot of filters on. So one of the things I did was kind of remove all of those filters and then kind of figure out where we stand. And then, I mean, it's just been a ton of different cases through social media because we've turned off chat. I think customers are now looking at that as a way to sort of speak to us and go through sort of a conversational thread as opposed to, just an email back and forth. So there's a number of different things that we're kind of looking at in ways to sort of improve this response. And ideally, once everything is, more optimized, looking at AI solution, through you guys and kind of moving forward to optimize that process even further. But right now, I think, just kind of simplifying the process, really kind of getting a gauge on how everything is sort of set up. We're doing a lot of up training and cross training and workshop training to kind of get all of the agents to be a little bit more knowledgeable. Because the way that I kind of would see it is that you would have sort of this bot or initial approach, whether it's through the web and, them going through their knowledge base or, an initial response at a low level. And then you have these higher trained level agents that are kind of handling the more complicated situations, would be sort of perfect with all the metrics and the KPIs already processing through Salesforce. So everything is kind of easily tracked. But I'm constantly looking at different solutions and different ways to sort of handle some of these situations and organizing it by like issue type and trying to drill down on what those problems might be.
Do we still have a few moments here, Paul?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just tying it up a little bit, kind of hitting on what everybody has already said, we're noticing is that specifically for the drive for customers towards self-service, customers are lazy. They don't want to search. They'll use the available channels, and we're seeing a lot of people reaching out via email or chat to say, how do I fix this problem? And good solutions that we're seeing in terms of the redirect to self-service is having AI that understands the message and then pushes back and says, we think this is the solution to your problem. And then, either you say, let us know if it didn't work, or you say, let us know if it did work. Just depends on what the philosophy of the organization is. And taking away the barrier of having to search or look or know which portal to go into, and letting your customer interact with you through the normal channels, but then guiding them to the right solution through some of these modern AI solutions of understanding what they're asking for. We're seeing some real success with some of our customers on that front.
Thank you so much for that, Tom. And yeah, I've seen some fantastic AI examples, and it's kind of fun because then your support team becomes really focused on making sure the AI is delivering it as consistently as possible, which kind of goes back to what Jordan was saying about where you're breaking your content into smaller and smaller chunks, which gives that the AI ability to really deliver that, which is, to your point, is what customers are looking for. I just want an answer as quickly as possible.
Quickly as possible. We're seeing, they had conversations earlier in the meeting too, where a lot of people were reporting that they are switching some of their content to smaller bite-sized digestible pieces, such as one guy was talking about using GIFs. So instead of a video or a whole training video, you got like a 30-second GIF that shows how this piece fits together. But certainly video and being able to go back and say, watch this 30 seconds of video, it'll answer your problem in a very targeted way, is a great way to deflect back to self-serve.
Love it.
I actually have a question, if you don't mind, Paul. How often has support within your experiences worked with like a user experience team to develop your educational content? Because I think there is a user experience aspect that's needed as far as the tone that you use, and also your writing style to ensure that you're speaking to your audience, right? Like, so for example, like my audience is nonprofits. So technically they're not going to have the same possible acumen as like a small business owner who's trying to do email marketing or utilizing something different. So in your experience, like how has like a user experience representative, a stakeholder, or a team helped with implementing some of that educational content in a way that's going to be absorbed?
Looks to me like Paul is frozen. So
Oh no, I was just holding very still. But Tom, I think that you are actually, if you could talk a little bit about how you're doing that at Y Meadows, in terms of, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that Jordan's comment about trying to have a consistent voice is really important. And this has been something that's being really pushed forward by companies like Atlassian and the newer startups in the SaaS space. They've chosen a much more casual and conversational tone with their customers. We're starting to adopt that ourselves at Y Meadows. And I think that the point of having to have a consistent voice across both the educational and the support and within the application itself is really a cogent one. I can't speak I don't have enough depth of experience to say how much I've seen this in the industry, but I certainly see that as the direction that the software as a service industry is moving, and we certainly hope to emulate that ourselves at Y Meadows.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have experience deploying AI in support, but I do use Grammarly a ton. And in Grammarly, you get to choose your voice. So in this email, I want to come across really professional. In this email, I want to come across playful, and it suggests different word types. And so I'd imagine that you can match your AI tone to even run an analysis on what words your customers are using, to your point earlier, Jordan, which really helps you align and feel like your brand is on point to the customer. It makes it feel like they're home in a lot of ways. Great discussion, folks. This was fantastic. I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank our panelists for coming on here. And if you're a customer support executive or client success executive, I hope to see you at the next client, wait, I messed that up. At the next customer support, client success executive brain trust. We'll see you next time.